hello you lovely bunch. So thank you for everyone that bear with that last video a couple of days ago, a lengthy video. As you can understand, these extra bits are going to be because it's actually making something, and as much prep work as I can do, it's still going to be a lengthy video. So tonight we're going to get cracking with a bit of silver soldering and tapping. I'm going to tap those holes in there first, and then we're going to silver solder those in, and hopefully these top pieces in. The actual main structure of it is still as I left it the other day, with those bits underneath and everything. I'm not going to worry too much about that because we're going to work on that face there, and then them top pieces. I think that's the way the route I've got to go down, is to do those, then that main plate, do all the surrounding uprights on it, before we start then thinking about getting that big top bit in. Getting that big top bit in and then flipping it over and thinking about the other side. I did get asked the question, am I going to do different temperature solders for doing this different steps? I'm not. I'm going to use my 0.75 wire, all the same temperature, and the reason for that is those corner pieces that I did, that was a very complex fabrication. It worked well enough for those, so I'm going to do the same again, but obviously doing this different fabrication. So all being well, it'll all work out. So we'll get these tapped up now, get the old riveting tool out to do a bit of tapping. Spot on. Okay, clip-on mics attached, we're all rigged up, ready to go. 8BA starting tap there. First one. What I've done to clear the sharp edges off this laser cut hole, I've just wiped it with a countersink first. It's only thin steel, so it should just nip straight through without too much bother. I'm holding on to it because the tap is trying to grab it. So I'm giving it a bit of vim and vigour. Going right the way through, all the way down to the bottom of that tap. Now, you're probably thinking there, 1.5 steel with a tapped hole in it, it's not really going to hold much. It doesn't need to, it's not supporting anything, it's not like I'm going to stand on it. On the full size, obviously it's a foot plate, so you would be stood on it, but it would have a lot bigger bolts in it, and it'd be, 6mm steel, 1/4 inch thick steel plate that you stood on. I think the bolts in it would be, what would they work out at? I'm trying to think about that now, and what size bolts they'd be in full size. I'm not sure entirely, to be honest. I don't know why 7/8 is jumping into my head, but it wouldn't be that, because that's nearly an inch diameter, which would make it nearly 5BA, and it's certainly not that big. Might be 3/8 bolts on full size. So what's that? M10 if it was modern money. And there's quite a lot in the holding just this plate on. There's another plate that overlaps this, which you'll come to see later on, later date. So these actual bolt holes that I'm going to do, or these bolts that are going to be in this, you won't even see them, to be honest. There'll be another plate that goes over the top of it and sits in front. But because I saw it on the works drawings, I'm copying it A lot of people that do the build the dick stock to the dick stockings drawings, this is the foot plate at the front, in between the frames in front of the smoke box. They do it with a little lift out piece, so that it hides the lubricator in for the cylinders in between the frames. I'm not doing that. I'm going to put proper Wakefield lubricators on the engine and distribute the oil to lots of multiple pipes all over the cylinders. Just trying to grab that. That was. But notice that the tap started spinning in the jaws of this chuck before it actually twisted it off. And that's because you can see there the flutes are all gummed up. So we'll go back to that one again. It was through the other side. It grabbed on the trying to twist it back out. I'm just going to go through and clean the whole thing now. Do a full run, like so, and back out again. So that's 3 of them done on there. What we'll do is we'll just pause you and skip this forward, just because you've seen me do 3, you'll know what the rest of them are going to look like. There we are, last one done. Tap just coming out. That's it. So that's all of those done now on there. We'll zoom her out a bit. There we are. So they're all done. What I'm going to do is now tickle all this up with a file, separate those off there, those off there, these off here, and then we're going to get all this silver soldered onto that front plate. And then that's the first section started then. So we'll get on with that now. Right, skipped forward a little bit. I've already emery papered and cleaned that backing plate that they're going to go onto. They're going to go in like that. Now, I wonder if any of you spotted the little cock-up I've done. And that's with these little tab bits, these little webs. I'll just try and fit one in underneath. Which is a fiddly to bloody put in. Notice that? Bring it a bit closer to you. See the gap underneath it? That's because some idiot, i.e. me, has put that tab on the end of there in the wrong spot. It wants to be on that face there instead. Or what I should have done is slotted them into there. So that should have had slots in, not these. Not a problem. I know what I'm going to do to rectify it. It's going to be fiddly, but that tab's going to come off altogether, and I'm going to balance them in place. Once this is soldered on, I'm going to balance them in place, let the solder go off, the flux go off while I'm holding it, a lot like I did with them rubbing plates for the axle boxes. As I'm warming it up, let the flux go off while I'm holding it in place, and then zap it. And that should do the job. Right, let's get the torch and everything set up. I'm going to use a smaller torch for this because it's all 1.5. It's not very thick. So I'm going to use a different size torch, not the normal massive blow torch you normally use. Got the next size down. And get all these fluxed up, put a bit of solder in. One thing I've got to be careful of, as you can see here, there's those 2 slots there. So I've got to be careful not to fill that up with solder, because I'm not going to be able to put those spacing pieces in
if I do that. So what I might do is cut the solder so it fits for that bit there, and that bit there. Then when I come to do those two, there'll be enough to run through into this. All makes sense in a second when you see what I mean. Right, what I'm just doing at the minute, I'm just having to mix up a bit more flux because this is more, I don't know if you can see it in there, it's more of a liquid than it is flux. So I've just got some from EKP Supplies, there's a label, Easy Flow Flux Powder. So I'm just dropping some bits of this in because it's in like little powder form. Just drop a little bit in, then give it a stir up into that liquid to thicken it up. It wants to be a consistency of about toothpaste. I do mine a little bit thinner, but not much. Just mix it all in. Get an old pickle jar, well, obviously without the pickles in it. Get rid of the or an old jam jar, whatever. Wash it out. You can mix your flux up, and if it starts to go off, if you've not used it for a while, because you've got a good sealing lid. And those that have got kids at home, a little old kiddie's toothbrush in there. Just lift this up into here so you can see it without my arm in the way. Let me bring this down here. Little kiddie's toothbrush, pull that out, give it a dab along that edge, like so. You can see it's a bit thinner than toothpaste. And just give it a dab there, and then press that in again. Sounds like it's in the right spot. So I've got to be careful with this one. I don't want to fill those two slots up because they're going to be a nightmare to deal with if they are full. So I don't want too much flux where I don't need it. I'm trying to leave a gap where those two slots are, if I can. You can, if you want to avoid getting silver soldering something or onto something and you don't want it sticking together. One tip I heard about.
So my microphone has stopped working at this point, so I'm having to overdub the actual sound. The tip I was actually talking about was putting Tipp-Ex on something. Just standard ordinary white Tipp-Ex. Coats the area that you don't want the silver solder to run into. And here's I'm showing an example here with a bit of Tipp-Ex on something. I can't remember what he was using that for. So, but the tip is put the Tipp-Ex over something, and it will stop that from gluing itself or being silver soldered to the other part. I have used it, as you could see by that piece of metal. I have used it before to good effect. So currently without microphone, so it's a bit of silence now, unfortunately. Might try and put a little bit of background music into the actual edit, just so you get an idea. So just running through there, making sure all the flux has gone where it needs to be, checking the underside to make sure it's come through the back side, pop it back down, give it a bit of a press, seal my jar up, keep that away, don't want it drying out, lid back on the flux powder, put that back in its place because we don't want water getting in it and turning it into a stodgy mess. And then we're getting into the business of things now. We're just going to cut some silver solder wire. 0.75 wire, all the same temperature rating. I'm not changing, I'm not doing a high temperature, medium temperature and low temperature for this construction. I'm just going to use the same solder for the whole lot, 0.75 wire. I'm just cutting the lengths, the little snippets. So I've got a little bit to put at one end there. Now I'm going to cut another piece just to put into the middle, so it's either side of the slots, the two vertical slots. I don't want solder to run into those vertical slots, so that's why I'm ending up cutting it into short sections. If it didn't have those two slots there, I'd just cut one big piece of wire straight along for that middle bit. So another bit there, and just press it into the flux, and then one last bit for the very end. I'm cutting it fractionally short here, and just popping it into that gap there, making sure everything's staying vertically. It's trying to move itself, so it's got a little bit of waggle room in these uprights. So just making sure it's going to stay in the vertical plane, 90 degrees to that plate that it's sat on. Then yeah, we're ready for a bit of heat, a bit of blowtorch. So I've put a different size torch head in here, and just going to do a size comparison of one to the other. That's the one I normally use. So I've gone down the size. It's a longer flame. Now heating it through, I dropped a right clanger here. Heating it through, unfortunately, it's going to take ages to get that, because it's got to get the fire brick hot behind it, and that torch isn't sufficient. So lesson learnt, and when we do the next plate, I'm going to swap from that torch back over to the big one, which you'll see in a second. So I'm going to stop talking now, and you're going to go into a bit of silence for a bit. As I say, I'll try and get a bit of music on in the background, or even speed this bit up, because we know what silver soldering looks like. Yeah. I've lost my microphone now, it's run out of charge, so I've upped the torch size because I've got that block of steel on top. Same process as before. You notice we're doing the other upright with the spacer pieces this time. I'm doing it because the fire brick's on, so it should take less time to get the heat through it. Placed in the flux. Directing the flame to the bottom plate really first. That block of steel's on top just to keep pressure on them two uprights.
you're turning the torch towards yourself like this, being careful that the flames obviously now come towards you. Don't set fire to yourself. I was just checking there, make sure that's run all the way round. It hasn't. It hasn't run all the way round. Concentrate it at the back there. Now I've got it.
You see how I obviously relit the torch then to kind of burn it back up again. See that stuck to the fire brick. It won't be stuck, it's just where the flux and everything's gone off underneath it. Give it a bit of a tap and it should, like that, break free. So this now can go in for pickle, and then tomorrow we can have a bit of a clean up and have a see what's what, or hopefully see what's what. Maybe tomorrow, it might not be tomorrow. I've got a bit of normal work to do tomorrow and Tuesday, so it'll probably be Wednesday when my next video is. So let's get this into pickle, and you can see there it's gone all the way round. Let's have a look on the underside. You can see where it's come through. It's hard to see at the minute because it needs pickling off. So we'll go and get that done, and we'll get the other microphone rigged back up, just digest what we've gone through. Let me just pull this round, excuse if it makes a noise. So we've got that all soldered together. Bit of a mistake on that first one by using the wrong size torch. I didn't think I needed as much heat as I did need, so I downsized on the torch size. Turns out I did need the big one. Not to worry, always learning, every day's a school day. Sorry about getting in the way with the torch on my arm and everything like that. I have to get the flame round to make sure that the solder runs. You'll notice as well in that those two uprights, I turned the torch off because I couldn't see exactly if the solder had run off. It was sat in a shadow and I couldn't see if the solder had run or not, and it turned out that it hadn't. It looked like it had, but I could see the round of the actual solder sat up. It was kind of melted, but it hadn't gone all the way. So I lit the torch again, got it back up to temperature while it's all still kind of warm, got it back up to red, finished it off. They're going to go into, they're in pickle now, so they're going to stay in there for a few days. Then we'll come back and we'll clean them up and see what's what with it. You'll notice as well that I've made a bit of a, dropped a clanger. I was going to swear then. Trying not to now for YouTube. Yeah, dropped a bit of a clanger with them webs. So what I'm going to have to do, or what I think I'm going to have to do, is file off the tab that's on them, stand them in some flux, get them warmed up. The flux, when it goes off, should hold them upright long enough for me to just dab a bit of solder on. And then the top, where there's going to be an open slot where the tab should be, I can just whack a bit of JB weld in it or whatever and finish it off flush. You're not going to see it, to be honest, because that bit of foot plate is going to sit over the top. I've had that cut already, basically just so I can make sure that all these holes that I've had cut in it, everything's going to fit as it should do. I know I've still got horn guides and everything like that, and axle boxes and wheels and everything to do yet. But as I'm working on that, I'm kind of doing things as I'm checking from works drawings and stuff like that. There's a lot of checking and pre-checking and stuff like that. That didn't cost a lot to have that little plate cut, so if it's wrong, I don't need to worry. It's, you know, on my next order of laser cutting with Ed, I can just go and send off another file that's correct, so I haven't got to worry. So that's it for tonight. See you in a few days time, hopefully, and we can get those out of pickle, and I'll show you what I'll film me taking them out of pickle, because I'll wash them off. Take it out of pickle, we'll film that bit, then we'll get them on the bench and give them a bit of a rub with some emery and stuff and just see where everything is. So, but there shouldn't be, with it comes out of pickle, there shouldn't be any problem with it. It should be quite clean. So it'll literally be, wash it off with water, rub it with a cloth, put it on the bench, and we'll see where we are. So see you in a few days time, hopefully. And yeah, thanks for tuning in.